Jam. To Jam.
Hello, and welcome once again to Toon Jam. I am Matt.
And I'm J-Man.
And we are back in the throes of normal things. No more spooky time, just good old classic, straightforward cartooning. Getting jammy with the gang.
You know us, getting jammy with the gang.
Getting jammy with the gang. And today we're talking all about Jim Henson's Dog City. So, just a little bit of information before we start. Dog City is an American/Canadian animated television series that was produced by Nelvana Limited and Jim Henson Productions in association with Channel 4, Global Television Network, Forta, and Canal Plus Spain, and aired on Fox from September 26, 1992 to November 26, 1994, and in Canada on Teletoon until 2000. So it must have been repeats. The show contained both animation by Nelvana and puppetry by Jim Henson Productions, similar to Little Muppet Monsters, which we should definitely visit at some point. If we haven't already. It has, well, we haven't already. I don't know why I said that. It has 3 seasons with a total of 31 episodes, so very short seasons. Originally, it was a TV movie, an hour-long live-action TV movie, done only with puppets as part of the Jim Henson Hour, featuring characters as what it says here. Ace U inherits a bar restaurant called the Doghouse following the death of his Uncle Harry and is harassed for protection money by crime syndicate boss Bugsy Them. Refusing to pay or fight him, Bugsy kidnaps Ace's love interest, Colleen. There are car chases and shoot-em-ups and rubber duckies involved in the action. In the end, spoiler alert, Ace defeats Bugsy and gets the girl.
Wow.
So that's a breakdown of that. I think it won awards and stuff like that. It had cameos from Sprocket the dog from Fraggle Rock, and Lyle the dog, and Baskerville the hound from The Muppet Show. There's a dog character that resembles Tramp from Lady and the Tramp, and a background pug that later appears in Jim Henson's animal show Puppet Up and other Henson alternative projects. The Muppets of Ace U and his associates would make cameos in The Muppets at Walt Disney World and would later go on to become Elliot Shag and the other real-world counterparts to the animated characters that we see in this series. So there you go. Information. Background. I mean, you've got all sorts of characters. Ace Hart in the cartoon. Rosie O'Gravy. There's all sorts. Baron von Rottweiler. I think we see him.
Yeah.
There's the dog father. You know, you name it, they're there.
Yeah.
All the puns going. So, had you ever seen Jim Henson's Dog City before?
I don't think I had, but when the titles came on, I was like, this seems weirdly familiar.
You know what? I had that exact same thing. I was like, oh, I've not seen this before, but that that title sequence was weirdly familiar.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'd ever like caught bits of it or something, but like, yeah, I don't have any specific memories of it, but something in my brain definitely like churned when those titles came on and it came back in, and I was like, I'm not so sure anymore. But you know, it could just be the standard noir fare that was going on, because
it was the paint, but the bit where stuff was being painted in.
Yeah.
That's what, like, I don't know. As soon as that started happening, I was like, oh, I vaguely remember this.
Yeah, it's a weird one. So yeah, maybe is the answer to that.
Yeah, maybe. That's for both of us, I think. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not entirely sure. But hey ho. Okay, so this was vaguely new to us.
Mm.
Or
Yeah. So
new
I
to
mean,
us, but vaguely familiar.
I guess it was we would have been really young when it was on, so
Yeah.
that's probably why we
Yeah, I
do
feel like it's
remember
something that I would have been into. I was well into the Muppets in
it.
general.
Yeah,
Any Jim Henson stuff I really, really enjoyed. But I don't really remember this at all, but I feel like it would have been up my street.
yeah,
Because I like detectives as well.
yeah.
So,
It makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like, who doesn't love Muppets as a kid as well? I don't know what it
yeah,
is about them, but they're just um, instantly like a hit with the kids. Don't know
yeah.
why.
I guess there's so much for there's not just the Muppets. There's Sesame Street.
Yeah,
We had
yeah.
loads of these little. They had more going on back then.
Mm,
Um, all sorts
yeah,
of the Fraggles as
yeah.
well. Muppet Babies.
Hmm.
I know that was a cartoon, but it's the tie-in
Yeah,
stuff like that. So
yeah. There
there
was a
was
lot of Jim
plenty,
Henson stuff, wasn't there? Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, there was plenty out there, but
Mm,
no, never heard of Dog City before we did as far as I was aware. Um,
yeah.
but it's an interesting premise,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure if it's just if it makes it more original or so basically the premise before I go into it is like it's about a Muppet who is an animator.
Mm,
This is the dog. What's his name? Something Shag.
yeah.
So he is an animator. He's making cartoons of Ace, the private eye, and they kind of have a little relationship. Like Ace is like a character that talks to the animator,
Yeah.
but then it kind of feels like I'm not sure if that adds a cool little edge or if it just feels like they're crowbarring in a way to have puppets in it as well.
Yeah. It is a bit not really sure which way it's going. I like the idea that they were like trying to almost like encourage kids to be animators, if that's what they were
Yeah,
doing. Like there was lots of like little like animator jokes of like just how much work goes into it and stuff like that they kept going through. But I think for me, I know like as a kid, like most of the time, like cartoons and stuff were just like magic that appeared. Like never really thought that it was like somebody's job to do that most of the time. So anything that kind of like brings your attention to the fact that like it's an occupation, I think is, noteworthy. Like it's worth doing because, like, I mean, we live quite far away from Hollywood. So
yeah,
like it does kind of seem like just this thing that's just, almost like fantasy. Um,
yeah. And I think as well it is. This is why I kind of am struggling to figure out whether it's like just a way of crowbarring it in, but it is also I would say the better part of it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it is what makes it interesting, and it's
definitely.
always cool when you see because I think this is what the Muppets tend to do it well, like Jim Henson stuff, and Disney does it a lot as well, where they show you how stuff is done in a way,
Yeah,
and they make you feel like part of it. And sometimes it's like it's the tiniest way, like the Muppets, you just see behind the scenes,
yeah,
and it's not really real, but there's still part of it that makes you feel like you are part of that experience. And as
mm,
a kid, especially, you're like, oh, this is how this happens, and how
yeah.
interesting this is what's going on.
That's it.
And
This,
and it is the best part of this, definitely, I think.
mm. Yeah, letting kids in on like the way that things are produced, I think is, it's a really cool thing because if you can get someone excited about that, then, they probably are going to grow up to be an animator or, a puppeteer or something like that, which is quite cool. And like, yeah, in this, it's like it does work to kind of, stop it from just being 20 minutes of pure cartoon, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But at the same time, it does kind of because they've got this relationship where they're sort of like backing and forth between each other, like it adds this kind of nice little element where they can make things a bit unpredictable, or they can change stuff. Sometimes it's just for a gag or whatever, but it works either way. That, like, Ace will be like, "Oh, I'm not sure about this," and then the animator will be like, "Yeah, well, I thought about going this way," which is quite,
Yeah,
it's it's a little bit deconstructive, but it's quite fun the way that you do it. Like,
yeah. And I think it helps because the actual episode, like, if it was on its own, would be very blasé. You really wouldn't be
yeah,
bothered by it. Like, it has a few lines that hit, a few lines that miss. There's a lot of, there's a lot of weak gags as well as, I don't want to say strong gags, but
yeah,
definitely the animated side of it is. I didn't feel it's kind of that riding on the coattails of Roger Rabbit. And I mean, the time we've seen it before was definitely a worse example with Fish Police.
Oh man, yeah.
But it's kind of in the same wheelhouse as that.
Yeah.
And I guess this is kind of an example of what Fish Police should have. I still feel like it could have been better, but should have been aiming more towards this kind of thing.
Yeah, I did think of Fish Police when we were watching this. Which is a bad time any time that you think about Fish Police, really. But yeah, I mean, like, this was the dog equivalent of Fish Police. It was a dog town with dog characters, dog puns everywhere. Like, I think the main difference was they weren't trying to make like loads of like genital gags or just like it wasn't crammed full of innuendo for no apparent reason.
Exactly. It was definitely like made better by just the fact that it wasn't aimed at adults.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess you've got that added Jim Henson element to it that just makes it stand out from everything else. So yeah, this was like a much more enjoyable Fish Police experience.
And I do urge anyone to go out there and just give Fish Police a watch if you haven't already. Not for the whole episode though. Just stop when you feel it's time.
Yeah. Stop when you've had enough.
We'll feel it's time. But yeah, going back to this, there's. The episode we watched, first episode, is called The Big Squeak, which is a play on like a well-known detective noir novel. The Big I can't remember what it is.
Squeeze?
Yeah, I think it's The Big Squeeze. I might be wrong there. Maybe I'm just chatting nonsense, but either way, it is a play on a novel.
Yeah.
Let me just look it up just to make sure, because The Big Squeeze.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
The Big Squeeze. Crime. Yeah. So it's a play on that, and it's basically with elements of the Maltese Falcon, but it's got the Maltese Mouse.
Yeah.
Which I felt was a bit weak. Like, just as a reference. Just the Maltese Mouse.
Yeah.
Just felt a bit like they'd not really put much effort into that.
To be fair, I didn't know it was from anything, so I was just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah,
it's quite famous. Another famous one, the Maltese Falcon. But yeah, that's the dog father. I can't remember his name, but they called him the dog father. His wife is a cat.
Yeah.
Which is weird because this is the only other animal in the entire episode.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
In Dog City, everyone is dogs except for his wife, who is a cat.
Don't know if that makes her like more exotic or whatever, though. So
yeah, maybe it's just like a race thing. Maybe later on we see more different animals.
Yeah.
But it was a bit like, hold on.
Yeah, it was. taken aback by that more than I probably should have been.
Yeah, I think it's just because there's everyone else is dogs.
Yeah.
It's called Dog City. You're in a world, you've accepted everyone is a dog.
And
then all of a sudden, I mean,
hold on.
Yeah, I guess maybe that says more about us than it does about the cartoon.
You can't have cats in here.
This is a dog city, not a cat city. But yeah, hey ho.
Don't take kindly to your type around here.
Oh boy, this episode has gone to places I didn't think it would.
No, yes.
We're learning things about ourselves as always.
Who knew I hated cats? I just didn't know until this moment.
I can't help it. I'm a dog person. I can't help it. But yeah, that was a bit jarring for some strange reason.
Yeah, it was.
And then there's sort of all this parallel. It's like you say, like you kind of, for me, it was just kind of waiting for the next puppet bit. I don't know if that's because I'm more, don't know, like the animation wasn't particularly, like, you know, the art wasn't very original. It felt very generic.
Yeah.
All in all, so the puppets is really the thing that you're like, oh, this is cool. You know, maybe if the animation was a bit more fun, and the episode was a bit boring.
Yeah, it just felt like a standard. It felt like something I'd seen before several times. Like,
yeah,
I mean, other than like, you know, the dog spin on it, it didn't really do anything for me that, you know, I hadn't already experienced.
Yeah, but it's like you said, it was just the same thing with a dog spin.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. Dog police.
Yeah, it was dog police.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least it was lighter, and there was a few times where it was like, oh, that was like, you know, you get a chuckle out of something or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so the writing was a bit more.
I think that was it. Was trying to be like have all this sort of the humor was very Leslie Nielsen-esque.
Yeah.
And half of it landed, half of it just didn't. So some of the jokes you just like, ugh, they just felt like bad jokes.
Yeah.
That's the trouble with those kind of quick, sharp jokes, though, isn't it? Like sometimes, if you don't find it funny, you find it horrible.
That's it. Yeah, it becomes offensive because it's like,
so
you see that it was an attempt.
Line.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you missed.
Yeah, it's just like funny dad joke.
Yeah,
funny dad joke. And
what's weird is, like, I don't think many of the kids would get like any of the jokes that most, like, that they were throwing out, you know, like, to the kids it probably wasn't even, there probably wasn't any humor whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's weird. Yeah, I mean, you can see why. I can see why no one remembers this or talks about it, or you know, you never hear about it, do you?
No.
If someone said before today or before you watched it, oh, they're bringing back Dog City, you'd be like, what's that?
Yeah. Is that a reality show?
Yeah. Dogs in the City.
Yeah.
Is that a documentary?
That's it.
No, it's this.
Yeah, you'd be like, what?
No, it's an animated series with elements of puppetry in it, and it's very self-referential.
Yeah. See, we may have seen it, and it was so forgettable that we literally forgot it. So there you go.
So, yeah. Well, okay. So on that note, I guess let's move forward to our most likely mysterious ratings.
Welcome to Lizard City, where things slither and things are scaly, just like the scaly underbelly of crime. There's long tongues here, long tongues that reap whispers in the back alleys. And if there's one man to listen into those stories, it's Private Eye, Colin Chameleon.
Colin Chameleon, Private Eye. It was a long night here in Lizard City. I know it was long because I was getting cold. Blood needs the sun. That's when it all changed. I heard the trouble. As she got out of the cab, I knew something was up.
What is going on here? Have you seen this? Hey, Johnny, take a look at this thing. This freak over here.
If that weren't enough, the tall, long-necked beauty made her way up the stairs, and I could still hear the honking. She made her way in. This wasn't no lizard. This was a goose. Now, this wasn't normal. We're in Lizard City, not Gander City. And that's when I knew the night was only about to get longer. And this was a case that only I could solve. Calling Chameleon. Private Eye.
Calling Chameleon. Private Eye.
Private Eye! Okay, so here at Toon Jam, we have a 3-point rating system, which goes as follows. Thumbs up, Private Eyes. I mean, those guys always get the job done.
Yeah.
Thumbs down, Fish Police. And shaky, shaky middle, dad jokes. Mm. So good, bad, or what's going on there? So here we go. Rating time. Dog City. Your thoughts?
Yes, Dog City. I think initially going in, if it's a noir, I'm already ready to leave. So yeah, it has to do something to keep me in the game as far as that goes. But and I mean, the actual premise of it was very, very standardo. It's pretty much anything you'd expect. Like, you could probably fall asleep and dream this at any given night of the week. Nothing out of the ordinary. The dog stuff was better than, the fish stuff equivalent in Fish Police. But I mean, it wasn't groundbreaking. I wasn't like, there needs to be more shows that just put a dog twist on stuff. It was just, once again, like fairly average stuff. But it was all right. It was pleasant. I didn't, there wasn't times when I was like, oh, I hate this. It was still okay to watch. It just wasn't, it wasn't groundbreaking in any form. I think like the Jim Henson moments are probably the only bits that, like we said before, kind of broke it apart. And I did like that they were focusing on, on animating as an art form, and having those little moments where they were speaking to his creator back and forth and stuff. That's quite nice, like mixing it up, because they chose to do those bits in the specifically like trope heavy moments of, like having the femme fatale walk in or whatever, or having like the near death experience of like, a safe falling on them or whatever. So they kind of, you could tell they knew what they were doing, and they did something a little different with it, which I think that alone made it stand out. Even though you probably wouldn't want to sit and watch another load of them. And it did kind of feel long. I felt like I'd watched 3 episodes of it by the time it had finished. But it wasn't too much to deal with. So I think in the end, it kind of balances out somewhere. I think a shaky middle is probably about as much as I could give it. Like it is quite forgettable, but it's not something that was, I wasn't hoping it would end every minute like I was in Fish.
Yeah, it's not full thumbs down.
No. So yeah, I think it's a very hard, shaky middle show. So take that as you will.
I think we've definitely agreed on most of the stuff on this one. I'm just sort of thinking about it, and this is just sort of come to me now, which some people have probably been like thinking the whole time. But actually, the whole animation side of it, and sort of cut in between, actually it is a lot like Roger Rabbit, and that sort of behind the scenes making the cartoons and stuff, which obviously the noir theme, that and the same with Fish Police before, like it is all from the popularity of Roger Rabbit, really. So it probably that is probably why they've done all that.
Yeah.
Which now I've thought about that, makes it feel a little bit more generic.
Yeah.
In a way. However, that being said, those bits were still cool, and it's always good when it's Jim Henson puppetry stuff and you can watch it and enjoy it. And it's cool that we're seeing sort of a return of the Jim Henson stuff, really.
Yeah.
With like Dark Crystal, and so I know it's been cancelled after the first season, but we're seeing some of it return, which is nice, because it is we shouldn't just go full CG route. I don't think, because you don't use puppets because they are the most realistic, lifelike things.
It's like the opposite of.
Yeah, you're not like, oh man, those puppets, they might as well be real, because then they might as well be real.
Yeah.
And it's always cool. We like to see it because it's funny and it's cool, and it's more impressive to see a giant puppet than something massive CG. You just don't think much of it. But I'm kind of derailing here from where I was going. So, yeah, it was very like the animation was the middle of the road. The art style as well. It was nothing new. It was a bit like All Dogs Go to Heaven. I don't know which came first, to be honest, but it was so similar anyway, and it's less remembered. The story wasn't particularly amazing, but like you say, I'm not sitting there wishing it would end, but I'm equally not sitting there wishing it would never end.
Yeah.
I think this is like the definitive shaky middle thumb.
Yeah. Right there on the line.
There's it's not bad, but it's not particularly amazing.
No.
It's good enough.
Yeah.
But it's not doing anything.
Yeah. It wasn't painful, but you wouldn't recommend it to a friend.
No, you would forget it.
And we probably did.
And we probably did. So there you go. 2 shaky middles. But in a truer sense of 2 shaky middles, I feel like we've had shaky middles before that have just basically been like not good enough for one or not bad enough for another. That was just that was class middle. So there you go. What did you guys think at home? Did you disagree with us? Are you a mega Dog City head, or are you the exact opposite? You're like Cat City or bust. I hate this. Let us know on our on the 3 dog urinations of the internet. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ToonJamPod. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or whatever it is you listen to. You can find us on Amazon Podcast now.
Yeah.
Well, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, really. And any classic episodes, if you want to get them, on YouTube. But if you give us a rating review, that really helps other people find us and really helps us build this up, which is fantastic. You can also go over to our Patreon and get some bonus episodes. However, the only thing left to say is thank you for listening today. And until next time, stay jammy.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening. If you want to help the show keep going, you can be extra